Well, good evening and welcome, friends, to another Wednesday and another edition of Workbench Wednesday. We've got a lot of fun things to cover tonight. If you were in with us last go around 2 weeks ago, we did a coal load for a hopper car. Talked a little bit about how we did that process. And we're going to use some of the same similar techniques tonight as a sort of beginning basic tutorial on adding ballast to our track and basic ground cover to scenes. Very similar techniques, and we'll cover some similar ground. So if you saw last week, we'll pick right up where we left off there. If you missed it, you've got a good you'll get a good sense of how you can use these same techniques to do a variety of other things as well. Before we get started on the actual modeling, as usual, I will do my best to keep an eye on questions and comments as they come in, and try and keep answering things for you as best I can. Once I get involved in the work, sometimes I lose track, but we'll try and keep up. This is a big week. We have our catalog coming out on Friday. So I know there have been some people who've gotten theirs already and have been online and showing their views of all the pages and so forth. So I would expect that we will probably get a few questions based on the catalog tonight. As usual, I'm going to try and keep our focus tonight on model building and modeling and how-to techniques. There will be plenty of conversations coming up in the next couple of days after the catalog officially goes live on Friday, where I'll be answering a lot of those questions. So we won't get too much into that tonight, but I will give you a couple of key dates coming up so that you're all ready for it. The catalog goes live on Friday morning. Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock, it will be the much awaited, sometimes feared, but definitely anticipated return of the Ryan and Dave show at 3 o'clock on Friday as we dive into the 2021 Volume 1 Big Book. So we will be on our Facebook channel there at 3 o'clock Friday going through everything in the new catalog for you. Look out for that one. After that, we've got some more premieres coming up next week. Next week, Wednesday, starting at 6 o'clock. I will be on Train World TV as part of the virtual Springfield Train Show. Day 2 of that 3-day event through Train World. I'll be there with several other manufacturers. Our friend Angela Trotta Thomas will be on there that night with me. We'll have a lot of things to cover, so we'll touch on some new features and some catalog highlights there. I hope you'll enjoy for that. And we'll be back with Train World again the following week on Thursday the 4th to do another in-depth catalog show there. So plenty of time to talk about the catalog in the next couple of days and weeks ahead, and get lots of questions in and find out what's going on. GS update, Vision GS update. Yes, they are in, and yes, they are going out to dealers on our next release. My employee order showed up in my office today, which means yours should not be too far behind. So look forward to getting all of those out in the near future to all of you. The ones that we looked at in the office, we pulled a bunch of representative samples to test and check, and they looked and operated beautifully. So I think that you have that to look forward to in the very near future. We'll be getting those out and lots more on their way with a new catalog. I do want to talk about one more quick announcement tonight, a quick new feature that went live today, just a couple of days ahead of the catalog release. One of the things you're going to see in the catalog is a new thing called Lionel Voice Control. And this is a way to control your Bluetooth-equipped locomotives with your voice, with voice commands through the Lion Chief app. It's a really cool new feature. I want to give a shout out to Dave and the whole engineering team who've been working on this for a long time. And I think you will enjoy this feature a lot. The app update is now live, so this is a feature that will be on new trains, but also all of our existing Bluetooth-controlled trains that are featured from 2017 to today. So if you have a train with Bluetooth on board, you can get this app and try it out right now, which is pretty cool. These are available on Apple and Android devices, so if you already have the app, you can just do an update. And if you haven't gotten the app yet, definitely go on your app store and just type in Lionel Lion Chief, and you'll find that and download it. And then anything that has Bluetooth on board, you will now have this cool Lionel voice control feature with it. So we'll be talking about that a lot more too, I'm sure, over the next couple of days. But that's a really fun feature of a lot of our trains in the new catalog and beyond. So wanted to point that out as something you can play with a little bit before the catalog comes out and already start having some fun with it. With all of that, I think it's time that we get our hands dirty and start doing some modeling. So as I said, tonight we're going to do a little bit of ballasting. And what we're going to do is I'm going to pan down here onto my work surface. I've created a massive 1 foot by 1 foot square scenic base here to work with. And this is going to be a little scenic base for a building kit that I finally got completed over the last couple of weeks and decided it needed something a little more permanent to hold it. So this will make a nice starting platform for what we're going to build on. And tonight we'll focus mostly on this little strip of siding behind the building where the cars would be unloaded. Now I've just glued down this track. This is a short section of our Lionel Code 83 flex track. So the Code 83 rail height is a nice lower profile height. Looks really good. Actually, for a siding like this, you know, the true purists might say it should be even lighter, like Code 70. But once you get this ballasted, you're going to see that it looks really nice. I've given it a quick coat of spray paint, just so that we don't see black ties and rail. After the ballast goes on, I'm going to come back through later and probably do that in another episode because the glue will still be wet all night tonight, and highlight ties and rail and so forth and really detail it. When it comes to finishing your track, there's two ways you can do this. Most people, and most of the time I do this myself, will do the painting before you ballast because it's just easier. You don't have to try and paint between the lines and all of that. And you can cover a large area very quickly. But for a short little piece like this, where I want to get very detailed with the scene because it can be appreciated up close and personal till this winds up on a layout, I'm going to actually take the time to go in afterwards and hit all the details. And that'll let me use watercolor paints, which if I used acrylic paints on here now, there's a high likelihood that after flooding this with glue and wet glue, a lot of that paint could run off if it hasn't had time to cure. So we're going to paint detail ties and things later. A lot of this siding is going to get buried under gravel and weeds and stuff also, so you won't see a lot of the tie detail. But for a starter, just gave it a quick coat of primer. I haven't cleaned the rails yet. I will wait until all the gluing is done and painting is done before I come back through and clean the paint off the top of the rails. This siding will be for unloading covered hoppers. This is actually a fertilizer facility. And so to set this up, the first thing I had to do was determine where the model was going to sit. And that's important because you want to make sure that there's a little grate that will go here where the cars would be unloaded. We want to make sure that when we position a hopper car on the siding, that it's positioned at least all the way to the back, that there's room for a safety zone here at the end where the bumper will eventually go, and that the first chute of the first hopper bay is over top of that loading bin. Then as the car is unloaded, one bin at a time, the car would be pulled forward to the next spot and the next spot and so forth. So it's a little thing to think about if you're doing an industry like this and how things would be unloaded in terms of where you position things, where you set up your track, and how you design everything. If you want to get super prototypical about it, this gives you an opportunity to do a lot of things in a relatively small industry. You can still get a lot of switching action in there. All right, so for now, I'm going to take this little grate off to keep it safe so it doesn't get lost in the process. That'll sit on top of the track once it's ballasted. And I've set this in position so it was exactly where I wanted it. Took a pencil, worked my way all the way around the perimeter just before we got started here tonight. And now I have a nice marking spot where the building will sit. So I know right where it's going to go. And for now, we're going to put this over here safely out of the way. Any questions coming in here? All right. We're going to start with some straight all-purpose white glue. Again, get the multi-purpose stronger or stronger formula glue here so that you have some good strength to work with. Some of the weaker glues don't work as well as the full strength when you get into here. And we're going to put a nice bead of this right around the track. I'm going to focus on the ballast first, and we might get into some more territory and seen from working around the track, but we'll start right with the track tonight. Put a good heavy bead of this down, and now I'm going to take a brush and try and feather that in as best I can around those ties and the surrounding area. This is going to give our stone something really good to bond onto. I'm not going down the middle of the track as much right now because I don't want to have glue all over the tops of my ties. I'm going to try and keep that to a minimum. Although, as I said, on this siding, I do want some of these ties to be kind of buried. If you look at prototype track, a lot of these tracks, they get a little bit more buried and worked in than out on the main line. So if we get a little bit of extra coverage out there, not going to be the end of the world. Once the ballast is glued in place on the edge, the ties themselves really help hold the stones in place in the middle. So we don't need to get the base glue as thick there. If you're doing ballast on a raised road bed, like a cork road bed, for example, where you have the nice ballast profile, this is really helpful because it keeps that initial coat of ballast that you're going to put down in place so it doesn't all continue to spoil off. If you're working with Fast Track or any of our integrated roadbed tracks, you can greatly improve the look of that track if you're not going to be taking it apart and putting it back together a lot by just following this same technique. Just put this glue down right over the outer edge of that ballast on the track and go right from there, and you'll have a nice looking ballast. I wouldn't even worry about the stuff in between, especially with that third rail in there getting in the way, but just ballasting the edge and blending that into your scenery can really improve the look of your track, no matter what type of track you're using. If we were on a layout, it wouldn't be as big of a deal, but you do see here I've got some cardboard down because these steps can get a little bit messy, and I've worked with myself before. I know I can get very messy with this kind of stuff, so I put some extra protection down on the workbench. All right. Next, we're going to sprinkle on our ballast, and this is not super neat and organized yet. We're going to spend some time getting all the details just right, but I don't want to be just putting it in a big pile either. I want to try and get it spread a little bit around so it's roughly in the right area. The ballast I'm using here is from Woodland Scenics. This is their medium gray blend, sort of a default standard in the HO world for a lot of people. And this material, this ballast, is actually made out of a crushed, I think they're walnut shells, some kind of a shell, which creates some interesting challenges when you're doing the scenery work. If possible, I usually like to work with real natural materials because they take the water and the glue a lot better. These shells will actually sometimes tend to float on you a little bit. If you get too much water flooded in there, they'll tend to float and move around, and that can be a bit of a pain in the butt, frankly. But what you'll see us do here is use some alcohol wash and get everything situated in place so that we don't have as much of a problem with that. I'm going to take another brush here, one that's not already been in the glue, and start working the ballast in between the ties a little bit more. Now, if I'm doing a mainline track, I'm going to spend a lot more time than I would on this siding that is going to look older and abused and not quite as well cared for. On the mainline track, typically you would try and get it to where you didn't have stones on top of any of the ties, and everything looked good and even for nice drainage. Because you've got to remember what the purpose of this ballast really is for in the real world. It's partly to hold down the track and keep it from moving, but it's also really to help provide drainage for the water that will fall inevitably on our trains and keep that drainage moving, that water moving away from the track and the roadbed safely. So good drainage on a main line, very important. On a little siding like this where they're just unloading a covered hopper of fertilizer now and then, maybe a little less so. Probably doesn't get the monthly maintenance inspection that the main lines are going to get. Depending on what kind of railroad you're modeling, you may or may not want to spend a lot of time making your ballast neat and perfect. You may want to spend a lot of time making your ballast look like a hot mess. As things would be. If you're modeling a logging railroad or an industrial line, then certainly you're going to want to get as much variety and detail in this track as possible. The track is part of our model scene too, and we want to give it the right look depending on what what story we're trying to tell. So I've got this pretty well smoothed out. I've also been careful here so far not to get too much where the building is going to go. The building will get glued down here shortly as well, but for now I want to keep it somewhat neat. So we'll just double check that to make sure everything is still good, and I think we are. Again, I'm not going crazy here right now. There's a lot of stones over these ties. See if I can move the camera in a little closer for y'all. Not going super crazy, because I am probably even going to come back once this initial coat dries and put some more things in here to really build it up and bury it some more. But if I were doing a main line, I'd want to make sure that I came in and cleaned all of this away from the web of the rails especially. If you build up too much ballast in there, you could have a derailment issue. So it also can become a bit of a functional problem as well as just an appearance issue. But where we are here for right now, this is going to work quite nicely. All right, so with that in place, I'm going to move our building safely out of the way again. And we'll get started with the ballasting process. As we did last week with the pole load, the first thing I want to do is prepare this surface so that when we add the glue, it doesn't just bead up and move this ballast all over the place. Especially with these lighter shells in this ballast, it tends to move and go about where it wants. So you want to build in this glue layer gradually so that everything is affixed and stays where you want it and doesn't move around on you. Let me find my little eyedropper here. I switched projects and moved tools, so that means my workbench is a complete mess. All right, and for this, I'm going to use straight rubbing alcohol. You can use the 90%, 70%, whatever you can actually get your hands on at the pharmacy or thrift store. I know this is one of those things that's been a little harder to come by over the last couple of months. And we're just going to start by adding a thin line of this to the track. I usually start my glue from the center and work my way out. What this is going to do is break down the capillary action of the water so that it doesn't bead up on us once we start applying the glue. The next bit of glue that we apply won't be full strength. It'll be a diluted mix of white glue and water. So this is an important step. You'll notice, you might start to see it here a little bit. You'll definitely notice when we get some glue on here that the ballast does change color a little bit once you get it wet and once you get it glued down. That's normal. Whether you're using Woodland Scenics product or natural materials, any product, once you add that glue to it, it doesn't change a lot, but typically your ballast and your dirt and whatever you're gluing on will change color a little bit, usually erring on the side of getting a little bit darker. Now I used clear alcohol on this. If I wanted to vary the shade a little bit and go a little darker, I probably could have used our weathering wash. We also use an alcohol with some India ink mixed in, just a couple drops of India ink to give it some darkness. I could also apply that and get the same effect here. It would just darken the road bed a little bit more. Okay, so now I'm coming in with my special 50-50 mix of white glue and water, and we'll use this as a final glue layer to lock everything into place. When you're mixing this up, it's not an exact science, but you want it about 50-50. That's usually a pretty good thing to eyeball, a pretty easy number to eyeball. It's about 50-50. Some people will also put a couple drops of dishwashing detergent, where you could use the rubbing alcohol again in this to help break down the capillary action. I find it's just easier to put that on first as a separate step. than try and add it into here. But you can do that as well. Typically what I'll do is try and stay close to the rail with the glue and let it work its way out. You can see I've pretty well flooded this with glue and water. It's creeping about. If you have this on a ballast shoulder, again, going near the tops of the track is usually the best way, and then it will pull itself down into the profile of your ballast. Once we get back to our modular project later in the year, we'll have we'll see that again, where we laid down some cork road bed and started fresh with some ballast and do a nicer main line. For a siding like this, we're going to keep it simple, keep it pretty flat. Just even having this extra stone on here, though, is going to give it a lot more realism and a nice look. This is the really technical part and difficult part. We have to wait for glue to dry. We're not going to sit around and watch all this. We'll keep on moving and continuing on with the scene. But you do want to give this plenty of time to dry. I would say if you're building something you're going to be traveling around, at least let it sit overnight, if not longer. If you're going to be adding multiple layers, you can work with things, and you can blend a lot of things together and build up in layers. But you don't have to do it. You don't have to wait for each individual layer to dry. Sometimes as you get into a bigger scene, if you're adding details or changing colors and stuff like that, you do want to give things time to set up. As I talked about earlier, we'll come back through and paint some of the ties, different colors, and add some highlights to the rail and dirt and scenic, all sorts of things in here. I do want the base layer to have a chance to dry before I start trying to mix with colors and things like that. As you're seeing this dry, if you see areas that look like they didn't take enough glue, you can come back through and add a little bit more glue into the mix. Let's see here if I can pull this back down. We'll take another look at the track. So you can see here we've got a nice good puddle of glue going, but probably could use a couple more drops down here at the end where the pile's a little bit thicker. And we'll just add in a few extra drops there. You really can't over glue it. So don't be worried about that. Eventually this will dry and it'll be hard as a rock, which is good. It's what we want. All right. We could probably speed things up a little bit with an air dryer, or what I'm going to do is just, at least around the edges here, soak up some of these puddles with a paper towel. We'll just let the towel soak in the water from the edge, just so I don't have a huge sopping mess here all night long. Another thing you can do at this stage, where we've got things sort of settled in and you can see that the glue's finding its way, since this is a siding where they would be unloading agricultural products, a lot of times what you'll see there is the ballast gets clogged with the fertilizer and dirt and whatever else, and you'll start to see some weeds and things growing up. So I'm actually going to sprinkle in a little bit of dirt in the glue here right now, and just let the glue that's there help suck this all in and glue us down. I'm not trying to be too terribly neat. There's no pattern to this at all. We're just going to add a little bit of dirt and realism to the scene. And then we'll feather that out here too, where the ballast is going to end, and we'll go into some natural terrain. Typically you won't do a lot of that on a mainline side of track, but if you're doing other scenery areas where you're mixing colors and textures, this is a great way to go so that you can develop a nice varied look to your scene. People often get very nervous with scenery because it feels like it needs to be so final. And as you're seeing this here, I'll try and pan back and forth and talk to you a little bit. If you've never tried scenery before, it can be daunting. You see these beautiful layouts and pictures in magazines and videos, and you think, I can't do that. The truth is that you just got to give it a try. And if you don't like it, it's usually really easy to rip it out and replace it. Give yourself a try at it before you convince yourself you can't do it. Some of the best scenery workers who I've worked with over the years at different museums and clubs and so forth. You know, a lot of people started off and said, "I don't think I can do that." And you said, "Well, let's just try it." And if we don't like it, it's just some cardboard and plaster. And it cost us about $3 worth of materials. If we don't like it, we'll rip it out and try it again. And very rarely did we ever rip anything out. We got the results we wanted. We were pleased with what we could do. You still get better over time and practice like anything, but you'll be amazed what you can do and what a difference a little bit of dirt and grass and stone can make on your train platform to transform it into a new scene and a new reality. Something actually very easy to do, and if you can pour some glue and spread it around and sprinkle on some dirt, you can create almost any scene that you can imagine. So the techniques are very easy. You've just got to think about it, get up the confidence to do it, and give it a try. This will look very different once it dries and once we get back in and continue to do more scenic effects with it. But you can see here, still very wet, still a lot of puddles going on. As we started talking about adding weeds and dirt, I'm going to try and push fate a little bit here and work some grass tufts and things into this as well. Again, it's the type of thing that you would see on a siding like this where you didn't have great drainage. You had a lot of cars stopping to unload fertilizers or grain, and there would inevitably be some spillage that would collect in the tracks and start to sprout. So you see this a lot on, even around main line, sometimes you'll see some of this where cars have spilled and you see things growing up that haven't been tamed yet. So there's nothing wrong with putting in a few little grass tufts here or there. What I'm going to use for that, I've made some of my own using static grass flock. Now you can buy these pre-made at your hobby shop. That you just simply peel off of a task board and glue in place. Or if you've got a static grass maker, you can make these your own very easily. All you need is some wax paper, put some strips and dots of glue around, and flock it on with a static grass machine to make these little tufts out of the grass material. Very easy to do, and you can make thousands of these little tufts for a fraction of the price of what you'll pay for them individually in the store. And you can make them to any size, shape, or design that you'd like, and any color that you'd like. So we'll add a few of these just here and there. And if I decide later I want to come back and add more, I can easily do that. And while the glue is wet, these will set into place very quickly and very easily and should dry right where we put them. I'm trying to stay mostly between the ties, since that's where the grasses would have an opportunity to sprout up. And working a little bit along the sides too. You could also apply static grass directly to this. We'll cover that in another episode for sure. For those who haven't seen that in the past, it's a fun way to add texture and ground cover to a scene. We've done a few videos in the past on this, particularly when we were building our display layout for our retail store in Concord Mills. We did a number of these. Whether you buy a grass applicator or build your own, you can have a lot of fun and go to town with it. But this gives you a nice grass textured effect as opposed to just shaking on more colored sawdust or ground up foam. You get a nice texture with this as well as the color. Put maybe one more on here, and then I'll take the camera off the tripod and try and get in a little closer for you so you can see things up close. I know from back there, it's harder to tell. So let's come on in here and take a closer look at our track. Again, this will look different after it dries. And we get some color on those rails and ties and so forth. that's the initial effect. I hope that helped cover some of this. Let me take a minute and scroll back. I haven't been able to do a very good job of keeping up with questions tonight, so let me see if I can find this feed here on the computer and try and get caught up. See if there's any important questions that I've missed. I apologize if you've been asking me things and I've been missing them. Let me pull this up. Back there, it's harder to tell. This is one heck of a delay. Again, this will look different. Looks like we've had some fun dialogues and conversations going on, so that's good. Let me scroll on up here. Looks like we've had some fun dialogues and conversations going on, so that's good. Brian says he downloaded the voice control a few days back, and the kids find it hilarious. I hope that's a fun hilarious, and they're having a lot of fun with it. That's what we really designed it for, and wanted people to enjoy and have fun. So that's good. These two. But yeah, so that's a great new feature. As I started off talking about that at the beginning, Lionel voice control now available in all of our Bluetooth engines. So get the updated app and take a look at that and give it a shot. Talked about the GS's, know where I can get a TMP station background or building. I'm trying to think TMP specific. I don't know if Trainworks has done a TMP station specifically, but they've done a number of railroad specific stations and some very nice custom work. If they haven't done one already, it may be something they would look into. So check out Trainworks, www.trainworks with an X, I believe I put on that one, .com. They do a lot of custom displays and custom model building. They'll have their, when we get back to shows, they do a number of train shows a year too. So they're definitely worth taking a look at for that one. All right. Thank you all for joining in tonight. It's been great having you on, and we will be talking again in a couple of weeks. We'll be back in probably another 2 weeks or so with another Workbench Wednesday. As I said, we've got a lot of programming coming up in between with the catalog release over the next week. So thank you all for tuning in. We're going to let the glue dry here, and when we come back to the next episode, I'll be sure to pull this one back up and show you how it all looked when it was finished drying. Until then, happy 2021, everybody. Stay well and stay healthy. Look forward to seeing a lot more of you over the coming days and weeks ahead. And happy modeling.